Good evening, darlings and divas. Welcome back to another episode of Prissy Pandemonium. Your host, Tyler, aka Miss Priss, will not be in attendance today, because as you can see, this is an interview with a leprechaun. I am so excited to be here today. Truly honored, honestly. I mean, last year you had Lady Luck, although I was told she didn't get an opportunity to give an interview, so I'm sure she'll be back at some point, but this year is for Leprechaun. Now, I must say, I have been up here for a hot minute in this little studio space. I have been up here for a hot minute. I can only imagine how that sounds on the microphone. Probably a little bit foul. But Leprechaun is all about being a little bit foul. Fierce too, of course. Fierce, foul, and fab. I wanted to wait until I was on camera to crack that bad boy open and take a little sip as my reward for finally pressing record after messing with the audio, lighting, outfit, makeup, you name it. But listen, if I'm giving an interview as a leprechaun, there needs to be some preparation. Am I right? Of course I'm right. Of course. Of course. So, this is an interview with a leprechaun. I think I'm ready now that I've had my little appetizer, which is just a drink. I did have some pretzels before this. So, I have some questions here that were prepared for me. So excited to be here with you, darlings and divas, today. Genuinely. My hair is a little bit crazy. There was a party last night. We would party all day. It was so fun. Yeah. I'm just here living my leprechaun life, okay? So take it as you will. It's an energy. It's a lifestyle. That's what luck is, okay? A lifestyle. And I'm here to kind of impart that wisdom on you today. If you're not a fan, I mean, there's always your run-of-the-mill leprechaun running around during this time of year. But let me tell you, you won't find the same pot of gold at the end of their rainbow as you will at the end of mine. But hey, that's okay. You want subpar, you'll get subpar gold. You'll get subpar treasure. Lady Luck should have taught you those lessons last year that you just need to embrace a little more craze. A little more foul play. Foul play. I mean, what does that even mean? Come on. As if being a leprechaun is a crime, right? So, let's review these questions. Okay. So, what everyone is dying to know, what exactly is a leprechaun? You know, I genuinely wish I had a definition to provide you. But, I mean, you're looking at one. That should really be all that you need to know. However, a leprechaun is not obviously a pure leprechaun. I think I made that clear when I said the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow would be different. That's true. That's obvious, you know. That's inevitable when this is what you're working with. I mean, obviously, we still have the standard facial hair, which you can say, you might infer that I was a leprechaun prior to being a leprechaun. However, now while I don't want to give you the full origin story or birth of a leprechaun because, well, I mean, I could, but I don't know. Seems a little bit like that might be too much of a shamrock secret to be sharing with you today. Not sure if I can trust you just yet. You know, this is only my first appearance on this channel. So, I think we will refrain from any secret spilling today. However, you know, I keep sipping on this prebiotic poppy. I think it's lemon lime, it says. The more prebiotics that get in my system, I mean, who knows? So I'll say this. I can start telling you what a leprechaun isn't. A leprechaun isn't a leprechaun. Do we have the same similar abilities? Naturally. We still got tricks and treasure and a little bit of magic, right? A little bit of trickery. I can tell you this, okay? We're born under clover. And here I was going to say, I wasn't going to be sharing with you shamrock secrets, but, you know, perhaps it's okay. It's not every blue moon. However, I know that humans have a little saying that every once in a blue moon. Now, but what I want to make known is that if there is a moon in which green is referenced, that is the time in which a leprechaun is born, okay? A leprechaun is a baddie, okay? A leprechaun is a baddie who understands that life isn't fair or always fun, right? However, at the same time knows that the purpose of life is to have fun. So, leprechauns like to be a little more tricky with humans, right? They're a little greedy. They really like to hold on to their gold. A leprechaun, a leprechaun likes to share her treasure. Heavens be. And apparently, her bodily functions as well. But that's the whole point, okay? A leprechaun does not shy away from the ugliness of life. In fact, it's what emboldens her to be a leprechaun. Because we have to believe, you know, this world has a lot of Debbie Downers, and too many people who like to embody the spirit of a greedy little leprechaun. They really like to hoard that treasure, hoard that gold. Now, my fellow brothers in folklore, my little leprechauns, my fellow brothers in folklore, they are not as greedy as humans. You know, they might be a little tricky and a little silly, and, you know, they like their treasure, but they work hard for that treasure. Now, they might not give it up, and, you know, but you know what? That's okay. Because they're not humans who are using and abusing their wealth to achieve evil means. Evil means. That is not the spirit of a leprechaun whatsoever. A leprechaun really treasures her friends, her identity, her power, the ways in which life really has to have a perspective of luck. That good things are happening to us all the time. That everything is working out for our highest good. Despite life being pretty freaking ugly sometimes, right? Like really ugly. And messy. But here's the thing about a leprechaun. They just embrace the mess. Leprechauns just own it. And they say, you know what? I'm going to wake up today and I'm going to embody the spirit of luck. I'm going to embrace the spirit of prosperity, of flourishing. And later on in a little bit, probably this evening, we're going to be doing a little ASMR styled, putting together a little money bowl ritual. That's right. A leprechaun embodies a lot of positive fortune, and for everyone. It's equitable, it's equal. That's what we work towards, okay? We work for a fair world for everyone involved, because we all deserve to flourish and prosper. And it is possible, despite what greedy little people who, again, like to distort the idea of a leprechaun, who really embody this evil, evil figure, right? That, again, we could say has tendencies similar to a leprechaun. But in order to combat that, a leprechaun just doesn't. This is why leprechauns became a thing, okay? This is why leprechauns exist, to combat that mentality of selfish, greedy hoarding and this fear of losing money, this fear of not having enough. It's not good. Anyways, I think that's probably enough about leprechauns. So let's go on to the next question. What is your favorite color? Well, obviously green, but I'm going to go one step further and say color combo. And we're going to go with green and gold, babe. Green and gold. I mean, what else is there to it? Of course, we have some Irish, right? Which is orange, green, and white. And that is, of course, imperative. That is a color combo that can't ever be challenged, right? That is like, it is set in stone. But I really do just love the green and the gold. What is your current cunty song on repeat? Well, considering that I did do a little hot girl walk not a few hours ago to Debut by Cat's Eye, that is, I think that warrants that being my answer to current cunty song on repeat. However, High Femme by Bailey is also vying for that top cunty song spot, which, of course, she would deserve. Oh, look at this question. What does it mean to be a leprechaun? Of course, I tied that in with what exactly is a leprechaun, because that is imperative to her identity, to their identity, is to just be this spirit of abundance, of love, of luck, love, luck, flourishing, abundance. This is what we're standing for. But I should expand on that a little bit, shouldn't I? And I should say, listen, you can really attract what it is that you want in life if you're willing to embrace your fear as one, being real, but also two, being fuel, and three, just being a part of the process for learning how to live with it and go on with it regardless. I mean, I could go on and on. I know I said 4, but honestly, it's like 100. Because fear and anxiety, they just are relentless. They're daunting. But this kind of get up, right? The spirit of a leprechaun combats that, because it says, you can tell me all you want, anxieties and fear. You can say whatever you want. But when leprechaun steps out and makes luck and life happen with her fellow leprechauns, I'm sorry, but you have no power. And you never did in the first place. But this is the weapon against these fears and anxieties. Now, every leprechaun is going to look different because all the fears and anxieties look different. but it's always going to be fierce. It's always going to be fierce because you have to be in order to combat the fear. Fear is not fierce. It wants you to think that it's fierce, but it's not. It's not. Fear is not fierce. Not in the slightest. Do you know what it is? Love and luck and abundance. It's fierce and powerful and strong because it comes from the heart. And this is where we're going to talk about my powers. I believe there's a question about my powers. Okay. Can you share with us your lucky habits, rituals, tips, and or tricks? Well, honey, honestly, it just involves a lot of self-care. A lot of time with friends, a lot of heart-to-heart conversations, and just being authentic and loving yourself, which is a journey. A never-ending journey. But it means giving yourself permission. It means giving yourself permission to do what it is that you want to do. What's calling to you. Now that call should not involve harming other people, harming yourself, right? It should not involve hate in the slightest. That is not a call from our Lord God above, okay? So don't get it twisted, honey. Again, leprechauns operate on a frequency of love and authenticity. Of course, that means luck, right? Luck is just a byproduct to this frequency living that we're living on, honestly. That's what it is, to this frequency that we're living on. It's just a byproduct. It is a blessing. It is a blessing. Byproduct, yes, but blessing most of all. And so we express gratitude. That is another thing about being a leprechaun. It's gratitude. It's gratitude and it's fierce. And people don't always think that the two can coexist, but honey, to be truly fierce, you have to be grateful. You have to be grateful that you can even, that you even have the opportunity, that you have the energy to create and live out the energy of a leprechaun. That's a blessing, okay? So these tips, these tricks, I really love glamour. A little bit of glam goes a long way, especially when you look in the mirror. When you look in the mirror and you repeat affirmations as you're doing whatever. Glam looks different for every person, okay? This is true. Obviously today, my little glam was some eyeshadow, some mascara, and some beard oil, believe it or not. And also this hair, right? You know, and I do want to be clear about something, that a leprechaun truly cannot be a full leprechaun without their community, without their village, without their circle. This hair, Body by Tracy. No, this hair, my darling diva, Sarah. These nails, my diva darling, Molly. I mean, it really does take a village, okay? It takes a village to live out a spirit of love, a frequency of love. So, naturally, that means spending time with your friends, but also showing up for them when they need help. That's really what it's about too, because they show up for you and you just support each other, because these are dark times, okay? Dark times. And we see the rainbow and we know there's a pot of gold, but we have to work together towards that, okay? We really do have to work together towards that. Excuse me. So remember to have fun with your friends. Go out and do things with them. Go on a walk. Do things that really make sense for you and your friends. Be honest with each other. And don't shy away from those uncomfortable, hard conversations. They really can be revealing and healing in so many ways. That's probably enough tips and tricks, but I could go on and on. I mean, fashion is a big part. Art, hobbies, creativity. You must be creating more than you're consuming, honestly. That is imperative to your success as a leprechaun. You know, I realize that you may not have believed this from the beginning, from the onset, but anybody can be a leprechaun, especially during this time. Anyone can become a leprechaun. I think I said earlier that they're born under whenever the moon turns green or whenever there's green associated with the moon. But honestly, a leprechaun doesn't even know when that is, clearly. Or even if the moon even turns green. But when your heart is on that level, it's a thing, honey. It's a thing that can happen and will happen. It's inevitable for you. So just embrace it, okay? Just embrace it. A must-have in your home. Are you kidding me? Plants. Plants. You know, I would say a money tree is like, you got to have it. And look up what corner of the room you got to put it in. I believe the front door. It's your front door. So imagine you're seeing your front door, and then it's like the top left corner of your front door, like we're in a room, but really the front door. Anyways, I think my dragon kitty is trying to get in. But I've shut the door because a leprechaun needs to be able to focus. And that little fiend, while I love him to death, can be quite destructive, especially when I'm occupied and can't give him attention. However, what was I saying? Plants. Get you some plants. Okay, if they want to talk to you, remember, I mean, a leprechaun is basically a little fairy. Really fairy-like, who does get to be manifested in the spirit of a human, in the body of a human. So just have fun with it. But get some plants. Get some plants. Favorite shot to order at the pub? Who asked me this question? Don't you know that Miss Leprechaun doesn't really love shots? At least this leprechaun doesn't. Not at all. But if I had to... Oh, I did have a tequila shot yesterday. And then I was down for the count. I took a little nap. See, this is the thing. Leprechaun couldn't even be a thing until after that nap, after taking that little shot. No. No favorite style shot to order at the pub. Favorite song to do a jig to? You know, there really is a song that I've been really loving lately. You know, Enya is my girl. I love Enya to death. I believe that we are connected spiritually somehow, and I will die on that hill. However, her sister, I recently discovered, I believe her name is Moya? Moya Brennan. I found her. The Light on the Hill. The light on the hill. Here we go. Low, row, ho, row. Lorna Gale. Low, row, ho, row. Obviously, I can't really do a jig to that, but ooh, I love that song. It is just, I really am enjoying it. So where do your powers come from? It is that time. And we have one more question after this. So I want to talk about where my powers come from. And that would be the concept of Viriditas. Now, I recently stumbled upon this term, and I was so in love. I was so in love when I learned about it. This is from Saint Hildegard, okay, who wrote about Viriditas. Okay, this is from, man, can I even, the Marginalian, this article is from. I'm not going to read the whole article, but I just want to read about Viriditas, okay? This is the power that we tap into as leprechauns. Now, Saint Hildegard of Bingen wrote, okay, this is where it comes from. In one of Saint Hildegard's visions, okay? In one of her visions collected in the wonderful translation, Hildegard of Bingen's Book of Divine Works with Letters and Songs, She paints a menacing picture of a world in which we have grown disconnected from the greening life force of our own souls. 7 centuries before Eunice Newton Foote discovered greenhouse gases, and an epoch before we had any sense of climate change or our own hand in it, Hildegard prophesies. Then the greening power of the virtues faded away, and all justice entered upon a period of decline. As a result, the greening power of life on earth was reduced in every seed, because the upper region of the air was altered in a way contrary to its first destiny. Summer now became subject to a contradictory chill, while winter often experienced a paradoxical warmth. There occurred on earth times of drought and dampness. As a result, many people asserted that the last day was near at hand. She was unambiguous about what stands between us and such fate. If we give up the green vitality of our virtues and surrender to the drought of our indolence, so that we do not have the sap of life and the greening power of good deeds, then the power of our very soul will begin to fade and dry up. Oh my God. This is from the Marginalian. I'll have to include a link in our little description. What a neat little article. And yet Hildegard believed in the green vitality of human volition. That's the green vitality of human volition. Believe that the soul knows what is good and what is harmful. By integrating our rational faculty with our heart-honed intuition, by refusing to dishonor our own souls, we have within us the power to revivify this earth. What may be the clearest, most succinct manifesto for climate action. She writes, our thinking affects our greening power. The soul is the green life force of the flesh. When we humans work in accord with the strivings of our soul, all our deeds turn out well. This indeed is the beating heart of Hildegard's Veriditas, the insistence that the stewardship of Earth's life force is not merely our moral obligation to the universe, but our spiritual duty to our own souls. Oh my God! This is the first time that I'm coming upon this particular article and this particular additional context behind this, but there was a little video that I showed, or not that I showed, that I came across about St. Hildegard of Bingen and her interesting facts about her. And it was that she wrote about this life force that we have within us called Veriditas, and that this green essence, this green energy, this force is in everything. It's in every living, I don't know if it's every living thing. I would assume it's every living thing. But yeah, this green life force. I do not want to use an AI summary. No. I just love it. I've always, so this is, I want to learn more about Veriditas, but this I can tell you is the energy that we tap into as leprechauns. As leprechauns, this is what we tap into. So I hope you enjoyed that little St. Hildegard of Bingen moment. Thank you, Jesus, for inspiring St. Hildegard of Bingen with such a profound insight. Oh my goodness, this last question. Does the carpet match the drapes? I fear that I may not be able to impart upon you that answer. Leprechauns have to maintain some sense of privacy, of some sense of mystery, right? After all, we are mystical, folklorish creatures to some degree. Don't let our cuntiness think, or our proclivitiness, is that even a word? Proclivity, don't let that mean that you get to know all the little inside secrets about whether or not shamrocks lie beneath the articles of clothing. You would be so privileged to find out, wouldn't you? Well, this was so fun. I believe I have to prepare now for a little soft-spoken ASMR style video where we do a little money ball. So I hope you enjoyed this little interview with the leprechaun. I sure did. I sure really enjoyed it. Sure did. It was a lot of fun. So remember, embrace your inner leprechaun this season, but just be you. Be authentic. Honor yourself. Give yourself permission. If you take anything from this interview, it's to be fierce and to love fiercely. And luck is a blessing that follows as a result. It really is. Everything is lucky when you live with the lens of love. That's just how it is, my divas and darlings, my darlings and divas. Sending love and light to all. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. Mwah. Bye-bye.